out there. I am your host, and here we are again. This is Profound Professionals, the interview series that has been coming to you, bringing you global guests from all over our beautiful world that help improve your personal life and grow your business. Today, we have a wonderful guest, the beautiful, young, and brilliant Kayla. She is a psychotherapist. So I know there's some days my husband says exactly how many personalities are in there, and how many wives is he married to? I never have to worry about him straying ever. He says he has all the entertainment from just me that he could ever handle. So
Mhm.
fortunate for me because he's a pretty awesome guy. All right, Kayla, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm really happy to be here. I really
So
appreciate
how did you get in this space? This is like deep stuff. Like I know, I've always had this big heart and the idea of therapy did cross my mind, but what I thought is I'm just so affected by people's stories, and when it's sad, that's just such you have to definitely have some skill sets to be able to um keep yourself involved and helping, but not pulled in because I need a tissue and I'm not sure that's going to help the client. So tell us how you got into this space.
Yeah. So I've been a psychotherapist for about 5 years on my own, and I've had my own practice for the last two. And so getting here, I think everyone would say where they are is a bit of accident and a bit of life. Um,
Hmm.
and so right after graduate school, I went corporate path, and then I really missed working with people. I
Mm,
think I loved my team. I was in a leadership space, and then I missed the work. And one day I
mm,
was like, I think I went to grad school to sit with people and sit with their feelings in the moment.
mm,
So part of me, I've always had a bit of a calling. I'm the oldest of five. And so
mhm,
I think anytime you're in that position and family dynamics, everyone wants oldest sibling, like what's going on. And
mhm,
I think it felt good. It felt natural holding space for other people. And when I opened
mhm,
my practice, it was really important to me to specialize.
mm,
I think if people know about therapy, you can go in so many different directions. It's
mhm,
kind of like the medical field a little bit, like every
mhm,
therapist can specialize in what they want to do, just like every doctor can. So when I
mhm,
opened my practice, I specialize in trauma. There's
mm,
11 different domains of trauma. And so I personally work within adverse childhood experiences, which is going to be your chronic trauma. Those are
mm,
folks that your mom, like kids can't go away and they're
mm,
kind of just where they are. And hopefully they have really amazing parents.
mhm,
And the ones that don't grow up with lots of narratives, and they kind of tell themselves, and that impacts themselves and their businesses and everything else they want to do. So
mhm,
adverse childhood, and then anyone that was impacted by an assault, which for the female population is pretty high, and
mm,
that can be across any span of life.
mhm,
And I work with about 20, 25 people a week, so I keep it really small because, like you said, I do need self-care and balance. What's my
mhm.
life versus what's the people that I have the privilege of working with's life. And so that's what I do. That's how I got here. It felt kind of natural and a bit of a calling, I guess, in that space.
Mm, I think that's so beautiful, and it's lovely what you're doing, and so needed. And one of the reasons I launch the show with the idea of, we're going to work with and feature anyone who can help someone's personal life as well as help them grow their business. Because, originally I was very business focused. I'm a sales and marketing expert. I do social media training. We have this big VA firm and we do all these things to help businesses grow and amplify. And one of the things I realized quickly is if the person themselves isn't working on their inner work, their business isn't going to succeed. And so the inner work, our, great author, inner world creates our outer world. There's a couple of people who you could quote for saying that. Not sure who the original is, but read that in quite a few books. And,
Mhm.
what we're doing on the inside, the work that has on our inside suddenly can break through and change how our businesses are, how our relationships are, what our bank account looks like. I mean, all of that can begin to change simply by doing the work on the inside, and it's interesting how balanced they are because also I find that your environment, like if you clean up and declutter and release things physically in your environment, it also does have a huge impact internally, right? When you're talking about your physical space. So,
Yeah, I love that combination. That is something that in therapy we talk about quite a bit. I think
hmm
really we tell ourselves these narratives, and then those narratives create behaviors. And so if
hmm
any part of us believes we don't deserve to be successful, or we
hmm
have an image of someone who's successful that was intentionally unkind to us, then
hmm
we'll limit that. And that'll absolutely show up in our life and the relationships we have and how we hold space for our business and exist in
hmm
that. And so I think you're absolutely right. And that combination exists all over.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. So the people who come to you have experienced either something they haven't been able to heal through from the past, or an event that happened at any age, but that was, traumatic, and so they work through with you. I guess in your particular practice, I mean, I know some therapists who do group therapy, but are you strictly one on one? Is it all in person? Is some of it virtual? Is it, group? Do you have an online course? Like, what are the different ways you're serving and supporting your customers?
Yeah, amazing question. So personally, my practice, it's myself and two other clinicians. And so
Mhm,
if my particular domain of trauma doesn't fit someone's need, then they get to choose a clinician that would meet that need. I think
mhm,
holistically, I believe in therapy. The
mhm,
folks that specifically work with me usually come to me because of the trauma. I'm certified. There's a few different modalities that work well in healing trauma. And
mm,
trauma, usually we get stuck in this like pattern of freezing or fawning or fighting or flighting. And then we can feel a bit of like disassociated from our feelings. A lot of times, whenever we experience some form of trauma or we remember trauma, people will be like, well, I feel numb. I just don't quite remember everything.
mhm,
So usually those are the folks that come directly to me, and I offer in-person care and I also offer telehealth. I'm licensed in Florida and Texas. I live
mm.
in Dallas, so if you're in Florida, we're not doing in-person care.
No.
But I have an office here in Dallas, and I'll see folks in person on Tuesdays and Fridays, and
Mhm,
being able to do that for the ones that like the in person. I don't do group. I do relationships though, and
mm,
so I've done siblings have come in for a
mhm,
few kind of sessions on what it was like growing up together. They share
mhm,
such a commonality and experiences usually. I've done parent child, and then I've done relationships, romantic relationships. And
mhm,
so those aren't my like all the time, but I hold space. Usually one person will come in and be like, I actually think if my brother was here, if my sister was here,
mhm,
it would help me feel connected to them because
mhm,
childhood was such a disconnecting space.
mhm.
So a little bit of everything, but usually it's just one on one.
Well, and the fascinating thing about having siblings come in, because even if both children were in the same room experiencing the same event, um, the perspective and the memory of what actually happened can be so very different from each of them, even though no one's telling a fib. They're just relating their version of the experience as it is true to them, right, as true to their memory. And it's so fascinating also how warped and distorted childhood memories can be as if you go as an adult. So if you go back, for example, to even a physical place like a house or a building or a community, um, and you haven't been there since you were a child, and you go back with adult eyes, it's such a different place, size and proportion, and you see things that no, this wasn't here. This couldn't have been here because I never saw this. And so it's fascinating how the human brain works, and what it focuses on and what it sees, and all those things are just so interesting to me. Um, so yeah, I mean, what you do is super interesting for sure.
Thanks. It is, it's really neat. I love, like, what you were just saying. Makes
Mhm.
the siblings, that usually is where we start actually, because one
Mhm.
person, usually the one that's in the space with me, will be like, well, I don't know why I can't have a relationship with my sibling, but none of
Mhm.
these things happened. But everyone also responds to chaotic and traumatic environments differently.
Mhm.
And we grow as adults into different behaviors in response to it. And so
Mhm.
typically because I come from that corporate kind of space, a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs or
Mhm.
higher level leadership, and being like, I'm really good at work and I don't know why I can't get this family thing down or this relationship thing down or this romantic thing down. Like, if I
Mhm.
could be so good at something, how can I be so bad at something? And that's sometimes it's nice to start with a sibling, because
Mhm.
we realize that we push people away too when they remember differently or when they experienced differently.
Mhm.
It's unintentional. We don't want to be alone. And yet we can find ourselves in that position of not wanting people close to us.
Well, and I found something else fascinating in my own healing journey is that, first of all, we're in a society that still is. I don't think people are. I mean, from my perspective, I don't see this, but it does, and it could still exist. But I think people are. If someone says, "Oh yeah, I'm in therapy," it isn't this huge stigma that maybe it used to be, and maybe in some communities or cultures or states or parts of the United States, it could still be. I'm not aware of everything across the board, but if someone were to tell me that, I'd be like, good for you. Hey, self-help, self-care, self-improvement. It's like a thing that's out there in the social media. We're talking about it. And, companies are starting to embrace it for their staff and employees. And so I think it's more of an okay thing. However, we are also very, say positive things and be positive all the time. And you're okay. You should be okay. You're okay, right? Because if you're not okay, then it's still not okay, right? So it's still not okay to not be okay. And so one of my
Yes.
own frustrations was I had something occur, and I have done a lot of work on myself, and I do feel like I've,
Mhm.
come out on the other side, and I have, forgiveness and healing, and wish the best for these people, and just trying to take the positive learning experience and moving forward through, and all these things. But I did find that there were still dates on the calendar that would pop up that I didn't know what to do with. Like, I didn't know how was I supposed to behave, or how was I supposed, or it would bring some of that back. And so I found myself having to go re forgive, or re go through the exercises, or re figure out. So one of the things I learned is if there's a triggering, whether it's something that you could see in a movie, or a place you would go, or a day on the calendar, that's a triggering event, developing a plan and a coping strategy for that, so that oh, when XYZ shows up on the calendar, or if I see this kind of a scene in a movie, or if I have to go to this kind of a place or community, or be around this kind of thing that is my trigger, this is how I behave. This is what I do. These are the healthy choices for me, so that you don't. I believe forgiveness is something that you kind of have to do over and over again, but it becomes less and less, right? You're able to let go of it, and you don't have to do it quite as often, and it becomes less and less of a need, because it's more for yourself than for the other person. But I do think it gets less and less, and if you have these coping mechanisms, it can become even less. And so that's something where I identified, oh, this is bothering me, and here's why it's bothering me, because I don't know how to behave, or I don't have a plan. And so having a plan, I feel like, oh, I'm that one more step in this place of healing and wellness, and coming to terms with things that are beyond our choice, right? Some of these things that happen to us are beyond our choice. So,
Mhm.
so what are some of your thoughts on, like, helpful coping mechanisms for people when they do have things that trigger them?
Yeah. I think the first one is normalizing that it's okay to
Mhm.
feel triggered or to feel a little surprised by the date on the calendar. Or
Mhm.
the next day when you're like, wow, yesterday was really a funk. And then you're like, oh, that's because yesterday's
Mhm.
anniversary is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think if we could normalize that for ourselves and not like expecting, one of my favorite quotes is every day I'll give 100%, but not every day I'll have 100%.
Mhm.
Sometimes I show up and I have 30% and I'm like, I'm going to give you 100% of that 30%, but I only have
Mhm.
10%.
Mhm.
So if we can form like some type of, and I think I'm so happy that the bias is away from therapy.
Mhm.
I'm fascinated by the concept that you just said because I talk about it with my friends a lot. Like, it's everyone is so happy when you tell them you're in therapy, and yet whenever you're having a bad day, it's like, "Oh, no, but are you gonna talk to your therapist? Like, you don't have to tell me. Like, why
Mhm.
are you?"
Exactly.
We don't we kinda, like, clam up. We're not
Mhm.
sure. And so I think, 1, normalizing it and being okay
Mhm.
with a day that's a little off, not always
Mhm.
expectation that we have to be perfect and, like, seeking that standard that we
Mhm.
set.
Mhm.
I think the other one, like, when it comes to real coping of triggers, in addition to normalizing, knowing that the depth of grief doesn't lighten. I think
Mhm.
we experience it less times, but the depth of it
Mhm.
usually will stay relatively similar. So if you haven't cried in a few
Mhm.
years, fantastic. You may cry one time when you hear the the song of a parent or a grandparent the same
Mhm.
way you did at the time whenever you had that loss. And a lot
Mhm.
of times, even with people that have hurt us, there's a
Mhm.
grief, there's a part of that that's grief because we
Mhm.
weren't anticipating the hurt.
Mhm.
So it's not about them. It's about us and, like, what does that mean? Do I trust people? Did I trust myself? Like, a lot comes up
Mhm.
in these triggering moments. Sometimes when I share that, my clients are like, "Oh, yeah, it's not just one thing. It's not just one
Mhm.
person. It's like, here's all
Mhm.
of these feelings." And if we give ourselves that complexity, then we can be kinder to ourselves and how we're responding. But
Mhm.
legitimate coping, once we normalize and, like, explore, breath work is absolutely fantastic. If we can
Mhm. Yeah.
even for, like, 2 seconds longer than you breathed in, it kind of
Mhm.
forces your shoulders to drop and your body to
Mhm.
align. So I always encourage an extra long exhale. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter how short the inhale is. Um,
Mhm.
the other one that I really like is breath like a square. It's like a box
Mhm.
breathing. Go
Mhm.
4 in, we hold for 4, we go 4 out, we hold for 4. Usually try to do that 4 times, and then that
Mhm.
last we're gonna do a really long exhale out.
Mhm.
That just tells our body that whatever happened isn't happening. And
Mhm.
sometimes our internal time frame can get a little
Mhm.
wonky, and it's happening, and
Mhm.
work always helps our brain know, like, "Oh, no, this is a memory, and it might be
Mhm.
uncomfortable and it's sad, but it's not the current right now reality."
I so love that. I love 2 things you said, and I wanna repeat them again because I hope the audience really kind of absorbs this. I love that it's okay that we don't always absolutely have 100% in our hands to offer
Mhm,
the world every single day, but we can give of ourselves as much as we do currently have and still feel good about ourselves, and I love that idea. And also communicating that to our community, our relationships, our space to say, here's where
mhm,
I am today. I'm going to give you all I can, reserving what I need for myself so that I can still function. But
mhm,
tomorrow is going to be another day, and
mhm,
having that permission to do that. The other thing that is fascinating, I love that you said is, you know, what you're remembering and experiencing is a memory and it isn't happening. It happened to me, but it isn't happening right now.
mhm,
And I think that's a super powerful thing to remember. One of the other things I do is a lot of meditation. And I have to remember, you also talked about different people and scenarios in a situation. And one of those people I think is really important to remember is yourself. Because when I go through those forgiveness exercises, I do, even though I wasn't the one who made the choice. There is sometimes like, I hate calling anyone a victim, but survivors or thrivers guilt. Like there's some level of guilt from it, even when it was absolutely not your fault or absolutely out of your control. Somehow that sneaks in, and renewing your forgiveness for yourself is just as important as renewing your forgiveness for the person who harmed you. And one of the meditations I do is, you can imagine any person. For me, the person is Jesus, and he's holding an infant version of whatever that person is. Sometimes it's me, because it's really difficult to not be forgiving and to be angry at a baby. At least it is for me. So, so for me, if I can
Universal
squish
concept.
if I
Yeah.
can squish them back into being an infant, and I can, talk through how I'm feeling and have the infant hold my finger, and then I'm able to give this genuine loving forgiveness. And sometimes, like I said, the infant's me and I'm forgiving myself, or it is the person who made the bad choice or caused the harm, or was a source of the trauma, based on their bad choices. Because I don't believe anyone is a bad. I don't believe anyone's bad. I believe people can make bad choices, and the repetition of your choices begin to become who you are. But there's always
Mhm,
redemption or hope for everyone. I believe there's hope for everyone.
mhm,
To then begin to make different choices.
mhm.
But anyway, so that's one of the things that I do. Is there? I know that was kind of a great tip to begin with, but do you have any other tips or ideas that would help someone improve today?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually gonna take kind of what you were saying. I think
Mm,
therapeutically, I always culturally and within the spirituality or religion aspect, love to lean on where my clients are.
mhm,
And so I think that's a cool thing about therapy. If you find a person that makes you feel safe, that
mm,
it's your environment and you
mhm,
get to share what makes you feel comfortable and some of the things that can come natural to you. And
mhm,
so if someone came to me and said that that meditation really worked for them and
mhm,
helped them like forgive themselves, I think all that I would add to and maybe ask them to journal on, and this being the coping skill,
mm,
is where does the responsibility exist?
mm,
Sometimes whenever we need forgiveness for self or we need forgiveness for someone else,
mhm,
it can come up a lot because we feel responsible for their behaviors or
mhm,
responsible for them harming us in some way. And so
mhm,
it's like we're responsible for leaving them in their behaviors.
mhm,
And so asking even in that meditation, like what do I think I'm responsible for, which is a little different than fault. Like I think
mhm,
sometimes whenever it's someone's fault, it's a little clear. Like
mhm,
it's and then there's this expectation of an apology.
mhm,
Responsibility can be nuanced because we can have responsibility to people and situations that no one gave us that responsibility. We just
mhm,
naturally feel a tethering to it.
mhm,
And so sometimes I really like to explore that too.
mhm,
And if we're in session, we do it there, but I would like to do that in journaling too. Like where's the responsibility existing? What are you feeling responsible for this person or for
mhm.
yourself?
Yeah, and I'm definitely also a huge believer in the power of therapy. But the other thing for me is after I had gone to all different kinds of therapy, working through things and that I've faced in different times of my life, and tried different styles and modalities, and just different kinds of healing. And I think for me, at some point, I felt good with that part of my journey. And so, one of the other things I would suggest is after you've gone to an amazing person like Kayla, and worked through a plan and some time, one of the other things is building yourself a community of continuing care outside and after that. So, you know,
Mhm,
um, at this point, I don't go to a therapist anymore because I just don't need to sit down and re-go through everything I've already worked through and re-go through it. However, I do have a daily accountability partner, and she knows some of my story. And when I have a trigger day, I'm able to talk to her, and I do journal and I do meditate and pray, but then I also have a weekly accountability partner, that's some for some other parts of my life that I've been talking to for years and years. And then I have a small intimate group women's book club where we're working on ourselves for our business, and for our confidence, and for just different things we want to improve ourselves. For
mhm,
speakers, we're starting to do a we just finished Dean Graziosi's Millionaire Habits. We've done Atomic Habits. We're about to do one for stories that stick, for our
mhm,
storytelling, for our communication, for both our relationships as well as our business. And so we're always improving ourselves. And in that we have this safe space to hold each other up and support each other, and when someone
Mhm,
shows up, they show up, but they're not always necessarily, like you said, at their 100%. And
mhm,
we always take turns reading and we share, and sometimes somebody's in a space where they just need to listen. I'm here today, guys, but that's all I have to bring to the group today is
mhm,
I'm here, I'm present. And, so I would encourage you to, in conjunction with therapy and working through these inner spaces within yourself to find healing, to
mhm,
also prepare an outer community of support and healthy. Because if I weren't to show up to some of those things, I mean, I have daily, 2 weekly things. Like I have all these people that would be like, "Where's Jessica? She's dropped off." They'd all be checking on me, and like, so I built myself this, like, I feel like it's like this nestled hammock or cocoon feeling of, you
mhm,
know, even if I'm not at 100%, my community is there to hold me up and help me get back to the best version of me, and not let me fall too far, so that
mhm.
I'd be in a place where, you feel like you're starting at square one and I might be back in therapy full time or something, right? And I'm
But
publicly sharing all this, so don't you guys give me a hard time, Yay me, very brave to be on social media live streaming in all kinds of places to say, hey, if you don't work on yourself, then I feel like if you haven't been in therapy, maybe there's a challenge because who's lived the perfect life, right? Who's gone
Mhm,
without any challenges that might need a healthy conversation with a good therapist? I don't know anyone.
mhm, correct. Yeah, and I think that's why the bias has gone down because everyone like, "Here's something that I wish I had a different
Mhm.
perspective on," or, "What does this mean?" But I think you're absolutely right. My job is to get fired. My job
Yeah.
is to process its origin and explore the behaviors that came from that, and then go and exist in the world and
Mhm.
do whatever it is that you began to come here for. And ideally, whenever you start, it's like, I feel stuck or I'm not quite sure why I do this. We work on it and then you go.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of clinicians that maybe that's their style and there's no shame to like keep clients for
Mhm.
multiple years on end. I kind of like to do the mental dental. So if something hurts, you can come in.
Mhm.
But it's time to not be weakly anymore. Like you're
Mhm.
in a good space. You have the support, you have partnership, you have relationship, you know how to ask for help now, which is
Mhm.
its own teaching skill. Like how to
Mhm.
feel comfortable telling your support system. Like a lot of folks have people.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean we're comfortable saying today was
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So
find those people where you can say, "Today is hard." Have those community accountability relationships and support so that you can feel, nestled and snuggled in a great hammock of accountability and community. Because
mhm,
those people, if they really love you, will also say to you when they think you've come to a place where, maybe you do need to go for a dental checkup with Kayla, so to speak. So I'm glad you didn't find that offensive. I wasn't trying to like work people out of a job, but I do think that there is a
mhm,
life, for that. And then there needs to be a next step. Otherwise,
mhm,
I feel like what progress have you made? And I think that's beautiful that that's where you're taking your clients as well. So thank you for that. One of the things that we have been featuring on this show since show one is causes that are close to the hearts of our clients. So if you're watching out there, and I know
mhm.
you are, and we're so glad you are, make sure you put in the comments a cause that's close to your heart and care about, because we just might inspire someone today to give time, treasure, or talent to a cause they love, to a cause you put in the comments, or to the cause that Kayla is going to share with us. So share with us your cause.
Yes, I'd love to. Whenever I was in corporate, kind of at the beginning, I shared my journey. I created programs for an amazing company and startup for suicide prevention. And it's just something that really matters to me. I think our youth population, where our brain development is we're just naturally more impulsive,
Mm,
and rejection can feel so very real and kind of altering to life and reality. And so the project that's important to me is the Trevor Project, and
mm,
it allows youth to be connected with a peer counselor.
mm,
It's specific for queer and questioning just because the suicide rates are pretty high in that population, but they're able
Mhm,
to help all youth in the suicide prevention and giving them a space to, I mean, they always have their phones, and so they get to talk to a counselor for free right away on their phone, and,
mhm.
I think they do amazing work for young people in that
It's
impulsive time,
beautiful.
in sad times.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's so, so very important. As a young girl, part of growing up, my father was in the Navy, and I lived on Andrews, and we were in a community, and we lived on the housing, and
Mhm,
there was a teenage boy, that I knew that would come by and visit sometimes. We were just friends, and I know sometimes his parents weren't around as often. I think deployed and things like that, and
mhm,
I would make scrambled eggs and come outside. We'd sit on the porch and eat scrambled eggs that I'd make, and I was young too. But he had a great sadness, and at one point, took his own life, and and that's always kind of stayed with me, because obviously the whole street was covered in, yellow tape, and there was all the emergency vehicles, and it was a lot to experience for me, but obviously more so for him. And I always wonder, you always wonder too, could I have said something else? Could I have done something else? But it's wonderful to
mhm,
know that there's organizations and programs out there that will help that. I believe that we're all energy and we're all connected. And I
mhm,
see us as this like, because, candles and fire have energy. And I see all these beautiful candles across the globe, and we're all these beautiful lights. And, how beautiful when someone gets to live to, 98 or 100, and their light just goes out in a natural and healthy way because they got to live a good life. But how
mhm,
sad and heavy it is when, someone snuffs out their own candle or someone else's, so,
mhm,
getting that therapy and healing works for both of those situations, right? We want to help
mhm,
someone who's broken, who would ever want to harm someone else or themselves. And
mhm.
so what you're doing again is just so very important. So what a lovely cause to share. So thank you for that. So time, treasure, and talent. Maybe there's an organization near you that helps support and prevent and care for the people in your community, so that we can keep all those lights shining brightly and
Mhm.
connected and glowing and doing the things they're supposed to do in the world for why they're here. I think the big reason we're all here is for one another anyway, to help our lights shine brighter together. And so, books, authors are a bright light, and they bring us inspiration and inspire us and work our minds and help us grow our businesses. Is there a book that helped you grow your business or inspired your personal life that you want to share with everyone?
Do. It is my absolute favorite. It's called Beginners by Tom Vanderbilt, and the
Mhm.
whole concept of the book is to interact with that feeling whenever you're just starting something new. And
Oh,
he starts new things throughout his life, particularly as he ages, and he
mm,
starts surfing, and he's never surfed before, and it's fascinating because he talks about how we're so willing to try new things whenever we're children and whenever
mhm,
we're in middle school, high school, you're trying basketball and soccer and music instruments, and then as you get older, there's this embarrassment of, "I'm not good at it." And
mm,
we grow so much as people when we do things that we've never done before. And when I started reading it, I'd found myself in a lot of habits that I had stopped trying new things because I didn't want to be embarrassed.
mhm.
Since I've put myself in positions where I have no business putting myself, because I'm trying new things. It's been fun. I've scraped
Mhm,
my knees rollerblading. I have met with friends and traveled alone, and it's been nice knowing that my brain is growing and I'm growing as
mhm.
a person, and I've never done this particular thing before, and that can be an exciting thing instead of an embarrassing thing, and beginners help me learn that, and I really appreciate it, and I applied it. I mean, I left my corporate job and started a business, so I was like,
Yeah,
"I'm gonna be a beginner."
that's right. That's right. I love that. And that is fascinating because they do say that if you're trying to establish new habits, that you want to, you, if you're working on yourself and you're trying to really adjust habits in your life, that even doing something as simply different as like for example, I drive my daughter to school every day,
Mhm.
and it's a 30-minute drive. So there's probably 17 different ways from my house to the school that I could go. We always
Mhm.
go the same path. So they're
Mhm.
saying if you're working on a new habit in your life, that you're really working towards, do little things like that as well that are different, like trying something new, because it will help your brain construct those new neural pathways
Yeah.
to that new thing you're trying to learn or achieve or do. So just those little tweaks. Also, I forgot to mention there is another Harvard study I read recently that talks about if you are feeling sad or you're feeling more like you have 30% than 100% to give, your physical body and stance also help, like when you push your shoulders back and you raise your chin, or even
Mhm.
going, I sometimes off I actually often go to my front porch and I'll stand and face my face into the sunlight, and then they say the superhero pose even more, if you do that for
Mhm.
a while and meditate, and you start to feel confident and powerful and like you can do anything. And so it could raise the amount that you have to bring to the table that day if it weren't 100%, just by physically doing things with your physical body. Instead of sitting down, stand up, instead of slouching, push your shoulders back and lift your chin to the sky. And there's a whole series of physical things you can do that will raise the chemical endorphins in your body and really make a difference.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's so amazing how holistic we are, that
Mhm,
everything impacts everything. The inside impacts the out, and the out impacts the
mhm,
in. And
mhm,
I love that it is simple things too. Like,
mhm,
I sometimes will tell my friends and clients if they need it, like, "Today's gonna be a houseplant day. I'm gonna make sure I get really good nutrients, a little bit of water, a little bit of movement, and a little bit of sun, and I'm gonna treat myself as good as I treat my houseplants, and
mhm,
I'm not gonna do anything big. It's just
mhm.
things too." So, yeah, it's that combination. I love that. Going outside and doing superhero poses.
Yeah, and then when you finish, think of one small activity you feel like, "I could do this." Even if it's like, "I
Mhm.
could make my bed, and I could do that." And then you'll feel accomplished, and then you might feel like, "Well, I could clean off this counter or this area, or I could make one phone call, or I could, go visit one client or write one letter, a note to follow up to someone,"
Mhm.
whatever it is or whatever it is you're trying to achieve in your day. If you just once you've gotten to that point where you begin to physically feel better, and then you do that small one little task so you feel accomplished, and it just begins to snowball in the positive, right?
Mhm.
Versus the other way around, we can get sucked into the vortex of the other way around, and we don't want to do that, and that looks very ugly for me. It's a lot of streaming television and a bucket of ice cream. So
Mhm.
you don't want to go that direction.
Yeah, yeah, be careful all the way around.
Yeah, that's right. And I've established all those accountability partners so I can have a lifeline. "Oh, no, the television and the ice cream are calling to me. Help, I need a lifeline," We'll get on the phone, we'll have a nice conversation, I'll take a walk while I talk, I start to
Mhm.
feel better, the sun shines on me, all of the things happen, and then I'm okay, I've got a new and I have one thing I feel like I can do, and, so
Mhm.
I think we're all here for each other. You're never ever completely alone because, like I said before, I don't know what your beliefs are, but I believe we're all connected. We are all created by energy and we are all connected. So you're never ever technically alone. And we can all do this together. So, whatever this is, whatever this needs to be done, I believe that we can do it. It's been so lovely having you, Kayla. Thank you so much for coming on the
Mhm.
show.
Honestly, thank you for inviting me and for letting me be here and in front of all of the amazing people that follow along you. It's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed Kayla as a guest as much as I've enjoyed having her. It sounds like she's had a little bit of fun. If you have a
Mhm.
book that you suggest out there, then we would love to see that in the comments. And if you're an author to a book, well, throw it in there. We would love to feature that and promote that for you as well. Also, if you're an industry expert and you said, "Hey, wait a minute, I could improve someone's personal life or help them grow their business, I should be on this show. Reach out. Our team will let you know the details of how to be on also. So, Kayla, before we say goodbye, we're going to ask you to share a piece of information or inspiration.
Okay. I hope that everyone that's listening knows that our goal is not to matter more than other people, but for us to really know we matter just as much as other people that we love and that love us and that we work with and all the way around. And sometimes we can get in the space where we forget that we don't matter more, but we matter just as much as.
I love that. I love that. We are all important. That is a very, very beautiful thought. I am your host, Jessica Koch. Our show is Profound Professionals. And until next time, I'm going to leave us a little differently with believe in yourself, be kind to yourself, and be kind to each other out there. Bye, everyone. Until next time.